Well, it's that time of year again where we go into Richmond for our General Assembly session. It's 2025. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Eric Claville. Today, we're going to discuss the General Assembly session 2025 with our friend and NSU alum, none other than Delegate Cliff Hayes Jr. We'll be right back in just a moment. Welcome back. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Eric Claville. Once again, I want to welcome you to this new year, 2025. Happy New Year to you. It's still new. It's still new. We're still in January. So hopefully you had a wonderful 2024 and you're ready to go into 2025 because we are here. As always, we're broadcasting from the campus of the Norfolk State University, home of the Spartan Nation, from none other than WNSB Hot 91, the soul of VA. And speaking of the Norfolk State University, I'd like to welcome all of our returning students for the spring 2025 semester, all of our faculty and staff. We had opening conference last week. It was a phenomenal conference for all those returning and new faculty. And I'd like to welcome all of our new students who are now a Spartan. So look out for the time of your life where we're glad to have you here and glad to have you part of the Spartan Nation. Well, for those of you that have followed us for almost 4 years now, know that this time of the year, I like to delve into what is shaping up in the Commonwealth in Richmond, and that is the start of our General Assembly session. That's right, 2025 General Assembly session kicked off on the 8th of last week, on Wednesday, as by the Constitution. It was opened up and gavelled in by our Speaker of the House, none other than Speaker Delegate Don Scott out of the great city of Portsmouth, and some procedural matters they took up, and then eventually they adjourned until Monday, and that's because of a water crisis we have in Richmond. But we're going to delve into all of that and give an update on that and where we are. But we're going to not just do it by ourselves, but we have with us my good friend, NSU alum, and definitely a friend to the institution and a friend to Hampton Roads, and no stranger to the show, but none other than Delegate Cliff Hayes Jr. Delegate Hayes, how you doing this morning, my friend?
Good afternoon, Dr. Claville and all of Spartan Nation. We're certainly happy to be here with you once again to share on the state of the water and to talk about the upcoming General Assembly session. We're certainly blessed to be in this position to do so. So I'll just start off by saying, and closing, when we do, behold.
The green and gold.
Okay.
And listen, we got a lot to behold. We got, we ended the year with some great news. We got a new coach that stepped in. So everybody's excited about Coach Vic. So, again, the buzz is still there, but football season's not here yet. Spring training's not here, but the buzz is still there. But with that, I mentioned early in the show that this has really become a tradition where you kick off our very first show for the General Assembly session, where we start to review and inform the public about what's going on and what to look out for. So we're fortunate enough to have you as our delegate for NSU. We have many legislators. As a matter of fact, Norfolk State has the most legislators of any HBCU serving in the Commonwealth of Virginia right now. So when we talk about the Spartan value, Delegate Hayes, you represent that Spartan value.
It is outstanding to be in this position as an alum, to be in the Virginia General Assembly. And I often remind people of a time in which I was in my senior year. Then Governor-elect Wilder was on the cusp of becoming the first African-American governor in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and of any state, for that matter, during the time in the United States. I asked a question of him there in the conference room with Dr. Harrison B., allowing us to put those questions on the table. What is the most important part of your job as not only a former senator, but now coming in as the governor? And he said, it's been wonderful fighting for a piece of the pie, but it is absolutely a privilege and an honor to have your hand on the knife when the pie is being cut. And that is a role that I will have coming in as the governor. That's what he said at that time. And so I've since learned about the processes that we have in the General Assembly and how fortunate we are, how blessed we are to be able to serve and to be a member of appropriations and actually a subcommittee chair of appropriations on capital outlay and general government. It's wonderful to be in a position where, we have our hand on the knife as the pie is being cut, the budget is being sliced and diced. It's wonderful to be at the table when all of that is happening.
Absolutely. And Congressman Scott, who's our U.S. Congressman, good friend of the institution of mine, always says, if you're not at the table, you're usually
on the menu.
So, listen, you're not only at the table, but you mentioned, I want our audience to understand how important it is to be the chair, not just on a committee, but the chair of these committees, subcommittee on capital outlay for appropriations and the impact that has, also science and technology. Just a little bit, just let us know how important and how impactful it is, especially for NSU.
Yeah, just being the chair of things, and particularly on appropriations, puts us in a posture where we can kind of lead the effort to help fund initiatives that we believe are priorities. And I find myself a member of a lot of different interests. One is just being a delegate in itself, so we're going to certainly make sure that things are prioritized in which district in which we represent. But then being a member of the Black Caucus and an alum of one of the state's only two HBCUs, but certainly we have a few others. But to be a member of the Black Caucus, we're certainly going to focus on the priorities there as well. And Norfolk State, Virginia State, and Norfolk State happen to be right up there when it comes to the priorities for us.
Absolutely. And we're thankful because of that. We have a new science building coming up, $130 million plus construction that's breaking ground this semester here on campus, and some other projects directly because of your champion and others who are alums of here. Senator Lucas, also Delegate Candy King, Senator Lamont Bagby, many others that have come from here even before that time. And that just doesn't happen because we snap our finger.
Oh, no. There's some hard work that goes along with it. And I can tell you, as a clear understanding that was shared with me some years ago, walking off the baseball field after we had just won this conference championship. I stood between two pillars, one Marty Miller and the late, great Dick Price, in which our football stadium is named after.
Oh, yeah.
Coach Price, who was our athletic director at the time, says, listen, I want you to pay attention to what the ROTC is doing over there. So he pointed, and there the ROTC was going through their PT exercises as they ran up to a huge wall, grabbed a rope one by one, pulled themselves up, and disappeared on the other side. But he said, I want you to make sure you watch and observe what happens after they disappear and scale the wall. Not one of them are so selfish that they take the rope with them, because they realize that there's a long line of others who are coming after them. And just like you have the good fortune of experiencing this education, this environment, this wonderful life as a student on this campus, there are going to be a bunch of students who will be coming after you. So all we ask is, as you graduate and matriculate from this place, is that you throw the rope back for others. I've never forgotten that. And certainly being a member of the Virginia General Assembly, member of Appropriations, the Communications Technology and Innovation, and being the chair of both CTI, Communication Technology and Innovation, the Joint Commission on Technology and Science, and then on Appropriations, and serving as the chair, subcommittee chair of Capital Outlay and General Government, I am never going to forget to throw the rope back.
Absolutely. And I can attest to that. You are definitely a friend. Anytime I walk in the halls, anytime we ask of a meeting from you, you never, ever fail to deliver. So I appreciate your friendship and support of our beloved green and gold. But
I tell you, I'm standing on the tiptoes of anticipation because I know how much work went into working to get that science building on that list to be replaced. And so to have had a shoulder to the wheel and helping that process, man, I'm excited, sir. I am extremely excited. And not only excited about breaking ground for the new science building, but to know we have a pipeline, if you will, in the pipeline, some promising other initiatives and projects and capital things that we're going to try to deliver on behalf of our university.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's delve into that process that we have to go through. It's the start of the General Assembly, kind of the start of the General Assembly in Richmond. Just last week, there was a little crisis that took place. Unfortunately, the water pump in Richmond, the city of Richmond, experienced some issues of a failure of some parts, and the entire city was without potable drinking water. Delegate Hayes, talk to us a little bit about that impact that crisis had upon what's going on in Richmond now.
Yeah, I mean, the General Assembly is one thing, and I can't remember a time in which a session has been delayed for any reason. I mean, when we kick off the session, it actually kicks off 12 noon on a certain Wednesday of the new year, and off and running you go. And regardless if it snows, hails, you name it, the General Assembly goes on. In fact, many will tell you that if you are literally caught in the snow at home on a day that we have session, then you will be summoned and someone will escort you via law enforcement to the Capitol and get you into the session as you are supposed to be. But we just take so much for granted in the day-to-day, right? We don't even think twice about many of our activities daily that need water. And to have that have happened to us, it was a wake-up call for many. Many of the restaurants decided that they would just close their doors. Many of the hotels that people are staying in downtown at the city of Richmond, the guests have checked out and decided to go elsewhere. The amount of meals taxes that normally get collected at the restaurants, the amount of lodging taxes that usually get collected at the hotels, the amount of admissions taxes that's usually captured by attending things, events, etc., the amount of beverage taxes that are normally collected. I mean, all of these resources for the city of Richmond that no longer will be collected or at least delayed has had a tremendous impact already. And, of course, with those restaurants, hotels, etc., admissions facilities being delayed, that means delayed in sales tax revenue as well. So it's being passed on and passed around all over, and it's going to have its impact. The school system there had to close. Of course, the city had to close. The state facilities and buildings, because of safety concerns, they all just closed the doors, and you can't just go into the General Assembly building now until the situation is restored. It's a lot that has to be absorbed as we have started this new year. And it's my understanding that things are getting improved and hopefully will return to 100% over the weekend so that we can pick this thing back up on Monday coming as we are heading back to session on Monday.
Absolutely. And that just lets us know just how fragile our infrastructure is in just all of our cities. So there's definitely a lesson that we can learn from. But at the same time, our prayers and our support goes out to all the citizens in the city of Richmond and the surrounding areas. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Eric Claville, and you're joining us for our kickoff show for the 2025 Virginia General Assembly session. Joining us, as he has done in the last several years, my good friend, NSU alum, Delegate Cliff Hayes Jr. Kicking off the show to let us know what's going on in the General Assembly, what to expect, and what are some of the initiatives that he and the Black Caucus and others in Hampton Roads are championing for you, the citizens of this community. Delegate Hayes, the governor, released his budget as he does. It's constitutional on the 18th last year in December, and the governor presents his budget, and after that, the General Assembly goes to work. What are your thoughts on the budget that was released by the governor?
Well, as you mentioned, there is a three-legged process. There's a three-legged stool that has to be dealt with when it comes to the budget. And so one of the legs is the governor introduces the budget in December of what he would like to see the budget look like. And then, of course, there are two chambers in the General Assembly, the House, which I'm privileged to serve, and then there's the Senate. And both of those chambers will come up with their individual proposals of what changes need to be made to the proposed budget. I'm often reminded of the late, great Dr. Willa Bazemore, who served in Chesapeake as the first African-American female to be on the school board, and first vice mayor who was an African-American female, once said that the chief executive, in the case of a city, is the city manager, and in the case of the Commonwealth, is the governor. That individual proposes, but the legislature disposes. And so the governor has proposed his ideas, and we're going to have a crack at deciding what should stay in that budget and what we happen to agree on and leave in the budget. Some of that, I believe, will definitely change. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to make sure of that on the House side. And then the Senate will come with their recommendations for those changes. And the two bodies will then sit down and say, okay, if there are any differences in the House and the Senate budget, we'll negotiate and come up with one budget bill that passes, and then we're going to send it over to the governor to say, this is what the legislature believes our budget needs to be, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. So when we talk about this process, in the House and the Senate, they both have their processes. You're in the House. What are some of the issues or priorities that you're looking at in this short session? And I think it's important that we let our audience know that when it comes to the budget, it's a 2-year budget. And this is what we call the short session, 45-day session. What are some of the things that you have that you're championing?
Yeah, so when it comes to health care, there's some things we want to see addressed. And so I'm happy to carry on the House side, and then on the Senate side, as a cognate, Senator Mamie Locke will be carrying, and the Black Caucus certainly is behind this as well, I'll be carrying the bill that will require unconscious bias and cultural competency training for those in the medical field. So our medical practitioners will have to, one, if you're going to be licensed here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the Board of Medicine and under this legislation will require you to have unconscious bias training. And then, of course, for the annual renewals or re-ups, if we call them, for recertification, there'll be an update to that training as well. There have been a number of studies, and all of the reputable medical journals, medical organizations nationally have identified that there are some biases in the medical field and practices that need to be changed because people's lives are being affected. In fact, numbers will show that some people are even dying because of how they're treated according to biases that these medical practitioners have. I was even made aware that not only as they're doing this through their practices, they're taught so in medical school, even that some of the textbooks in medical schools have untruths about African Americans, about blacks, about black women. And so therefore, folks are trained to treat them differently than they ought to be treated.
Really?
And denying them care. And in some instances, delaying some of that care because of biases. And the truth is, we no longer believe that that's acceptable. We never did think it was acceptable, but we have been on the battlefield with the Black Caucus for decades trying to change some of these disparities. And it takes a while to finally get through to folks that we're talking about humando. We're talking about human. We're talking about human beings and how people ought to be treated as humans, regardless of their race. And so the Black Caucus is certainly championing not only this unconscious bias and cultural competency training, but we have a series of bills to address healthcare and the biases in healthcare. And it's one bill that will incorporate all of these other bills called the Momnibus legislation. And so we're just serious about this business of closing the gap and mistreatment of blacks when it comes to health care.
Yeah. You know, it's great that we have legislators like yourself and others in the Black Caucus that recognize this, but it's also sad that we got to legislate, people not being, especially our medical providers, not being biased against certain groups of people,
Yeah. And the truth is we all need to take a look at ourselves as human beings, as people. The truth is there's a notion out there that says that there's bias in bias, or people will say, I'm not biased about my biases.
Right.
That doesn't even make sense. We all need to take a look at ourselves. We all have blinders on. We all need to learn the truths and address the truth and not, close our eyes, close our ears to how we can improve the laws, the policies, and that have negative consequences and impact on the lives of others.
Right. Absolutely. Like you said, we all have biases because, again, we all are part of this culture, but it's up to you whether you buy into it or not, or execute it or not. So, again, we're thankful to have legislators like yourself, the collective Black Caucus, which is the largest Virginia Legislative Black Caucus in the history of the Virginia Legislative Black Caucus.
Let me tell you, man, it was powerful last year as we went out there on the steps to take our caucus photo. And I can remember in my college days going to the General Assembly and what that looked like back then with just a few members of the Black Caucus. And to stand there today and look out and see 32 individuals is pretty powerful. And listen, we believe that we're not finished. This year we have an opportunity to not only expand the members of the Black Caucus, but also the Virginia Democratic Caucus. And we're going to do just that. We're going to expand that majority in the House with the help of our Senate colleagues. Soon as this General Assembly session is over, we pivot and go to work on this upcoming election.
Absolutely. Now, when you talk about as soon as this is over, we go to work, it's 2025. It's not only the beginning of the legislative session, which is a short session and ends February 22nd, but it also begins right the day after the election time for campaigning. Here in 2025, we will elect our new governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general to serve for the next 4 years, and also all 100 seats of the House of Delegates are up for election. Delegate Hayes, you're one of those delegates, and you're also a member of a party, Democratic Party. Talk to us a little bit about how important 2025 is as we continue, as we move forward after this legislative session.
Well, it's really, really important that, I talked earlier about the privilege and the honor it is for me to be a chairperson here in the Virginia General Assembly and the influence that comes along with that. And then to multiply that across, because we have several members of the Black Caucus that chair other committees as well. We have Juwan Ward, who chairs Commerce and Labor, or Labor and Commerce. We have Luke Torian, who chairs Appropriations. We have folks all up and down chairing committees. We have Delegate Marcia Price chairing Privileges and Elections. We have, got to think of those other chair people that we have, but all up and down our committees. Oh, did I dare forget, in the House of Delegates, we have the Speaker of the House, who's a member of the Virginia Legislative Black Caucus as well, Delegate Don Scott.
Absolutely.
Who is the first African-American, or first Black to be the Speaker of the House here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And then on the Senate side, we have Senator L. Louise Lucas, that is the President Pro Tem and the Chair of Senate Finance. We have Senator Mamie Locke, who chairs committees and is the leader and on that side of the chamber as well. We have Norfolk State alum Candy Munden King, who also is very influential and a fighter on the floor and subcommittee chair as well. So out of Norfolk, subcommittee chairs also is Jackie Glass. We have from Senate side, Angela Williams-Graves. Michael Fagans, Alex Askew,
Aaron Rouse.
Yes, Aaron. Come on, how can I forget?
And we can't forget about NSU's delegate Benita Anthony that represents us.
Benita Anthony. The list just goes.
Darius Clark.
I'm just Darius Clark. Man, the roster is full, man, with
stacked.
not just bodies, but your description fits us all well. It is stacked.
Absolutely.
With dynamos.
Absolutely.
With people who are fighting on behalf of the Black Caucus, but also Hampton Roads.
That's right. And you know what? This is our all-star team, and you are definitely one of those captains. And listen, as happens to us all the time, we have run out of time because you and I, we could talk for forever. But
oh my gosh, give me the ball, coach. Give me the ball, coach.
Well, look, we're definitely going to bring you back as tradition to close us out after this session and to get us started in the new campaign season as well. Once again, it's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Eric Claville. Thank you for joining us, along with our good friend, Delegate Cliff Hayes Jr., as we brought to you the beginning of the 2025 legislative session here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Until next time, be good, be great, and God bless, and stay safe out there in the weather.
Behold
the green and gold.
Hi, I'm Carrie Washington, and you're listening to State of the Water with award-winning host Dr. Eric Claville.